So, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I wanted to talk a little bit about communication today and communicating science in an effective way that you can adequately speak complicated words. And so, to begin, let's go back about 100 years to the 1920s. And back in the 1920s, the early days of television, corporations, when they were developing radio. Now, radio is one of those things where you didn't have video, so you couldn't see someone speak. You couldn't really, you couldn't associate the words with someone's lips moving. But so it was very important to be able to speak very clearly so people could understand you. So at the time, corporations would develop an announcer's test given to those wanting to be a radio and ultimately a television announcer. And so these tests would usually involve retention, memory, repetition, enunciation, diction, and most of them would use every letter of the alphabet multiple times as well. And so this kind of goes back, and one of the early announcers tests goes back to about 1926 to 28. And this test originated from Phillips Carlin. He forwarded this test, and that was done with Graham McNamee during the World Series in the 1920s. And so let's just read this test here. Penelope Cholmondeley raised her azure eyes from the crabbed scenario. She meandered among the congeries of her memoirs. There was the kinetic Algernon, a calorific artificer of icons and triptychs who wanted to write a trilogy. For years, she had stifled her risibilities with dour moods. His asthma caused him to sow like the zephyrs among the tamarack. And so that was one of the early announcers tests, and then that kind of moved on to more things. And if we go to the 1940s, one of the more famous announcers tests originated from Radio Central New York, and it was passed to Jerry Lewis, the comedian, by a longtime friend, Del Moore. And this announcer's test was given to prospective radio talent to demonstrate their speaking ability and as well as their control of their breath, because every time you take a breath, sometimes the microphones can pick up on that, and so you don't want to breathe too heavily either. So that's also very important. So Jerry Lewis performed this test on the radio as well as television and stage performances for many years. It became quite a popular tongue twister. Probably a lot of fans around the world would repeat this in various pubs. So it kind of became a pub game. And then, so professional announcers would be asked to speak and perform this entire speaking test within a single breath without sounding rushed or out of breath. And so let's go through the Jerry Lewis announcers test. I guess it's the Moore Lewis announcers test. Again, we don't really know who wrote it, but it was passed on. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises, 6 pairs of Don Alverzo's tweezers, 7,000 Macedonians in full battle array, 8 brass monkeys from the ancient sacred crypts of Egypt, 9 apathetic, sympathetic, diabetic old men on roller skates with a marked propensity towards procrastination and sloth. 10 lyrical, spherical, diabolical denizens of the deep who all stall around the corner of the quay of the quivery, all at the same time. And so this was a very popular announcer's test that they would speak. And so what I was thinking, let's kind of go through and let's think about scientific words, because a lot of times scientific words are very complicated. There's a lot to them. Sometimes they tend to be very long. Let's think about, names of enzymes, for example, and being able to communicate this information can get very challenging. So it's very important for scientists to be able to speak. So I came up with a biochemistry announcer's test, and this is 10 lines, just like the Moore-Lewis announcer's test, and it should use all 26 letters of the alphabet. So here is the biochemistry announcer's test. 1. Zwitterionic alanine. 2. Quivering xenographed vesicles. 3. Glycosylated zebrafish kinases. 4. Oxidized ubiquinone complexes. 5. Jumping helicases in juxtanuclear zones. 6. Folded lipid bilayers flexing laterally. 7. Methylated nucleotides binding ribozymes. 8. Disulfide bridges twisting thioredoxin dimers. 9. Vacillating enzymes catalyzing phosphate transfer. 10. Quirky transcription factors quantifying expression in chromatin-packed feedback-inhibited genomes. So there's my biochemistry announcer's test. So let's just kind of check the alphabet on here and see where things are used. Of course, many letters are probably used multiple times, but let's just kind of go through starting with ABC, right? We're going to start with alanine, bilayers, catalyzing, dimers, enzymes, feedback, genomes, helicases, inhibited, jumping, kinases, lipid, methylated, nucleotides, oxidized, phosphate, quirky and quantifying, ribozymes, sulfide, thioredoxin and transcription, ubiquinone, vesicles. Now, W is a little sneaky because we don't really have a word that begins with W, but twisting does use the word W in it. You do kind of have a W sound, I guess, in quivering, maybe, or maybe not. And then xenographed would be X. X also appears in juxtanuclear. And then where do we get Y? No, we don't really have Y as the start, but bilayers has Y, enzymes, ribozymes, quirky and quantifying both have Y in them. And of course, Z is used multiple times. We could also use zebrafish that ends in Z, but we also have several like enzymes, ribozymes, etc. So we do use all 26 letters of the alphabet multiple times, and they're all biochemistry words, some of them a little bit. Sometimes they could be a little bit difficult to communicate. So that would be my biochemistry announcer's test. So I hope you found this video useful and informative, and hopefully you kind of learn a little bit about and appreciate the art of science communication. So if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit the like button as well. And leave a note in the comments. So I'm very interested to see what you think about everything. Thanks for watching.